All right, Adam Stark here, live on the Stark Truth News Report. I now have enough followers that I can even go live on Facebook. I kept trying to do that. It wasn't allowing me to do so, but now it'll let me do it. So, cool. That's what I'm going to do now. So, there's a live Q&A. Ask me anything, and ask my dogs anything if you want to. My main co-host over there on Four Legs is being shy. And I just want to give my testimony. My testimony is not going to make a lot of sense because I think it's really random. Even I don't think it makes sense, and it's me. But I will tell you how I finally given my life to Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, and the only way to heaven. And my story is all over the place, doesn't make much sense. But I figure maybe someone out there can somehow relate and see that even the most skeptical person like myself can find Jesus in the midst of how chaotic and nuts the world is. That really says something. So, yeah, these last few years, finding Jesus has been the most at peace I've ever been, despite how sick and wild the world is. So that's what I want to share today. I want to share my story. And, but yeah, type in your questions, anything you have to ask me here on the Stark Truth News Report. I'll answer because I can multitask, because that's what I do. See me driving all the time doing these. So, all right, are you going to say hi? No. Okay. Don't say hi. So, all right, well, I suppose I'll just start at the beginning. So, I was raised Catholic. My parents took me to Catholic church every week, and that's good. You know, they did that right and everything. And basically, I I did the sacraments and stuff, and a lot of my friends, even at school and stuff, we all did that as well. It was like it was just like a common thing in our area or something. I don't know. Like a lot of people in my school, and I didn't go to a church school, but it's like a lot of people in my school went to the same program for church and everything. It's kind of weird, kind of like connected. I don't know. But so I don't know. I didn't feel too connected to the church. And I'm not saying there's a reason. I'm not saying there's even a bad reason. I don't know why. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. I don't know why. I have no idea why or anything. That's just how it was. Okay, want me to be honest, or you want me to make it up? No, like that's. I just didn't feel too connected, and it's not an insult. It's just how it was. And so then I turn 18. I'm an adult now, and when I did that, I was like, well, now I can. Do you want to sit? Is that your problem? And I'm like, well, now I'm an adult. I can do whatever I want. You know, that was my attitude. Not the right attitude, but see, I'm an honest person. I will admit my faults. I will admit my mistakes. I will admit the things that I did wrong and things I've learned through maturity and spiritual growth. Okay. So when I turned 18, I was an adult. My attitude was, why? Why go to church anymore? That was my attitude. It was like, what's the point? That was how I felt. I was wrong, but I'm just letting you know that's maybe somebody can relate to this. That's why I'm telling my testimony. Somebody out there can relate to this, I'm sure. So my thing was, what am I doing? Why go? What do I get out of it? Was the way I was looking at it. And as they say, you make yourself the standard, right? So that's what I was doing. Now I didn't realize that at the time, okay, because I was young and dumb and like a lot of people. And I had this attitude of what am I going for? What am I getting out of it? And well, voila, now I have a choice. I can choose what I want to do with my time or whatever. So I'm like, it doesn't have to be a priority anymore. It doesn't have to be something I need to do anymore. Like that was my attitude about it. So I stopped going. Just clean, stopped going. Just like that. Cut it off. Now, I'm not gonna say ever that I was quite an atheist. And I'm not just saying that. The reason I'm bringing that up is because, you see, here's why I say that. I never participated in slandering the Lord. Like, that happened a lot. Like, a lot of even close friends of mine did that. A lot of people did that. A lot of people would slander the Lord, and they thought it was funny. Like, they thought laughing at religion was funny. See, even in those times, okay, my blindest times of faith, I'm saying, when I was like 18, 19, even then, like, I wasn't at that point of like a lot of people are around me there, where they were just like, religion is dumb. Why do you believe in this? Why do they believe in that? And they would take stories, laugh at them, twist them, find anything about them, and ruin them, etc. Like, see, I wasn't even doing that. Now, why? I don't know. Well, looking back at it now, I think it's because I still believed in something. Like, I still had a fear of the Lord, like a healthy kind of fear, and I didn't want to cross that line. Like, I still didn't want to do that, even though it was the common thing around me. All my peers were doing that. Not all of them. I just missed. Not all of them, obviously. A lot of them were doing that. Okay. But so what's my point here? My point is, okay. Oh, thank you for watching. Roxy popped up there. I won't say your last name. Thank you for watching. Appreciate you. Thank you. If you have any questions, type them in, and anytime I will answer your questions. Okay, unless it's creepy or weird or gross. But anyway, so that's one thing. I never quite will say I got to that point. So that's why I don't think I can ever say I was an atheist. But I definitely just had this carefree, doesn't matter attitude about stuff like that. That's how I was. I grew up with faith, and then when I was on my own, I'm like, well, what's the point? What do I need to do with it now? Like, that was then, this is now, times have changed. Okay, so where does that go from there? Okay, so as time goes on, okay, this is where I happen to become more of the Stark Truth News Report person that you guys know now today. All of a sudden, my world changed when I started learning about conspiracies. Now, this is going to go in a weird direction. Okay, so don't try and predict it in your head. It's not going to do what you think it's going to do. Okay, when I learned about quote unquote conspiracy theories. Now, you know me, I don't like to use that phrase because it's a loaded term. It invites ridicule, and the reason is because, and I've explained this in my other videos and my other streams and everything on the Stark Truth News Report, but most conspiracy theories are fake or bullcrap. They amount to nothing, and they're just fabrications. Why? Because that's the point. The government that runs us, they want to put out fake ones so that everybody jumps to them and they lead nowhere, and then they can use the dumb fake ones like flat earth, and then they can laugh and ridicule at the real conspiracy theories that are out there. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. And I've said this, I've gone over this several times. I've showed you proof after proof after proof on my previous videos and streams. Okay. So I'm not going to go over that here. Here's my point, though. When I started discovering those quote unquote conspiracy theories, I started to realize how fake the world is. When I really started to see how fake a lot of the world is, how absolutely bonkers, wild, lying constantly this world really is, how a lot of these events are fabricated or set up, or we were lied about them. So things happened, actual things did take place, and that part's not fake. But the problem, reaction, solution, Hegelian dialectic, that stuff was all manufactured for us. See, when I started learning this stuff, it really changed me. It actually really changed the way I think, the way I look at things. And why are my dogs so antisocial? Come here. Come on. They're so antisocial. Isn't that crazy? You think they'd want to be all over the TV. Come on. You want to be famous like me? I'm not famous. They're way more famous. Look on my Stark Command Center channel. My animals are viral on there. Anyways, way off topic. So my thing is this. I started changing a lot. Now, you're going to think, how did the heck does that connect to anything I'm talking about? Okay, here's why. I found that I would lose friends and then I gain friends. It was such a pendulum swing. some friends would be like, no, you can't believe in that stuff. Oh my God, how dare you? How could you? You're horrible for thinking that the government or the elite would do this event because the news told me so, that it was such and such person. They won't look at evidence. They just go with their emotions and they say, no, no, no. The TV would never lie to me, Adam. No, I don't want to be your friend anymore, Adam. Like, that's how it went. But the thing is, every time that happened, a new group of friends would become my friends. And they were like, well, yeah, we see that too. And we're sick of people not seeing it. Like, I relate. And then what do you know? Now that's a lot of people today too. So I'm not telling you that's probably the most relatable part about this whole video. So once I started learning about all of those things and every new one that comes up, because there's several a year, it doesn't change. Okay. Then I started going even deeper than I already did because, see, the problem with my line of thinking was I always thought that there was like a limit. That's how I was. Why I don't even know myself. I always thought, okay, government and the elite, they're willing to kill people, like a few people at a time, or one big catastrophe event, they'll kill like 1,000 people at a time. But I always thought, okay, but that's it. Then it stops. Why? I don't know. My brain always did that. I always said, but that's the limit. As time has gone by and I realize, no, it doesn't stop there. It gets worse. It's in everything. Okay. It's in the food. It's in the chemicals of the water. Our bodies right now, I told this on the stream recently, our bodies today, right now in this current time, we have over 100 chemicals in our bodies that our own grandparents' generation did not have at all. Okay, that's scary. Now, these are caused by things like corn syrup and atrazine and stuff like this. And the point I'm trying to make is learning this stuff, seeing that it goes very, very deep. It really started affecting the way I was thinking, and I stopped like in like high school and stuff. I was very, I don't even know the right word. I don't want to say neutral. I was almost, I'll say silent on anything to do with politics or the news or anything. I was like silent. Like, you wouldn't get a word out of me. Like, I would do like general like roasting of people like I already do as a battle rapper anyway. Like, but that doesn't, it's not like I had a definitive thought on any political issue, period. I just was silent. That wasn't my thing. So learning everything I just went over now, where does that bring me to? It brings me to this, okay? As I'm learning everything and I'm learning how fake our world is, I'm learning how fake politics is, and I'm learning that, like I've said this 500 times in my videos, every United States president we've ever had is related by blood related, except for one that they cannot confirm. Okay, Martin Van Buren. Every other president related by blood. When I like find out stuff like that, it really made me go, okay, this world is really fake. Like we're really supposed to believe we have an honest electoral process and stuff like that. Things like that really blew my mind. Like, it really changed the way I was thinking, and started going, okay, this is fake. So now everything's an agenda. Okay, that's my belief, that almost everything is an agenda that we see, okay, or a psyop and everything. So now, how does this relate to my testimony? I promise you I'm getting there. Probably sounds confusing right now, but I promise you I am getting there. So what happens next? Okay, next I go even deeper and I start going, okay, who is this elite? Who is this elite? That, because you have some people present information differently, and this isn't an insult. We're all different. Okay, some people's strengths are other people's weaknesses, and etc. Some people are thorough. Some people are simple, fast, and get to the point. And some people don't cite sources; they just talk. You have all kinds of different people that are telling the truth out here, or at least attempting to. When people would present videos and they say the elite, the elite, the elite, the satanic elite, I didn't know what that meant. I wanted to know what that meant. And here I go, finding out all of this stuff. I'm going, what are these things called Freemasons? What is that? I want to know what that is, because that comes up in every video. Oh, okay, but the Freemasons that you see, generally speaking, they're not evil. They're just part of the evil. but they're not actually enlightened because they're not at the higher rank. So they don't think they're doing anything wrong. They think they're just part of a society, but it's not actually anything inherently wrong because they're a low level. See, like these are things I didn't understand. I had no idea. Learning about them, learning about the Rothschild family. There's a debate on how to pronounce that, but not the point. Like learning about all this stuff made me go, wow. And I found that mainstream article, and I showed this before. You can look at my previous videos. That mainstream article. So you can't say that, oh, he picked from a fringe internet source. Oh, Adam Stark just made this up. No, I gave you a mainstream source, an article that showed that the Rothschild or Rothschild, whatever it's pronounced, family literally runs all of the economy on the planet. It all goes through them, through their banking system and their networks and their outreach and everything. Like that article explained it all, and that's a mainstream article, so nobody can say that I'm went over that already. So stuff like that made me go, what? Like there's just a few people that run the rest of the human race, and like I need to learn more about this. Like that, my brain went into hyperactive studying mode. And of course, there's a lot of false information about them. There's a lot of red herrings and a lot of dubious stuff. And that's the problem, is it's not easy. It's not like when you're researching for like a school project, you're going to find the answers for it. Like this is different because this is stuff they don't want you to know. So you have to read their own books, like Manly P. Hall's books and stuff, contextually. Like you have to make inferences between their books, like Masonic Dogma and stuff. Like you have to look at it and really study it hard. You can't just, it's not like other things, you know. And so my point is, by getting this information, learning about it made me go, okay, I started getting closer to understanding why I need Jesus to be saved, but I wasn't quite there yet. Okay, but at this point in time, I started going, okay, what else is there? Because every event, even if it doesn't look like the elite are directly related, somehow they happen to be benefiting from it. Just watch. There will always be some way that they're benefiting off of it. And I think that's the point a lot of people miss. Let's say something happens that hypothetically was authentically done. Some authentic terrorist attack happened authentically, let's just say, right? Even that, somehow the elite will find a way to grasp it and benefit from it somehow. And I think that's the thing a lot of people miss. A lot of people are auto hoaxers. They think every event is automatically a hoax, automatically. We can't be like that. That's just, it's just not right. It's your integrity is on the line. Like that's not being honest. You can assume in your heart that that's going to be the case, but to say that out loud and push that on people, that every major event has to be a hoax, that's just wrong. That's not a fair way of thinking. Okay, that's not a good journalistic viewpoint. You gotta think hard about this stuff. Okay, now the reason I say that is because where when I started looking at this and I started going, at what point did this happen? Like when did this change? Like was there a point in time when the elite didn't run us? Like these are the questions that I had. Like I had to look at this stuff fiercely. Like I really spent a lot of my free time researching this stuff, trying to learn this stuff, listening to viewpoints, opposing viewpoints and stuff, trying to grasp it and figure it out myself. So at what point did this change? Well, there's a few different ways you could look at it. When we used to have several corporations, now we're down to 6, debatably 5. Okay, that changed because now journalism is absolutely dead. There used to be journalists that would go to the Bilderberg meetings and stuff. They would go out in that building and they would try and figure out what was going on inside of that. That doesn't exist anymore. They don't even care. They don't even talk about it. And every time it does happen, some event happens anyway, conveniently. So it's not like you're going to hear about it. It's things have changed. Okay. And then of course the the concept of them hijacking religion and religions. And then of course the other thing that happens is where they become crypto people, where they claim that they're a certain type of people, you know, lineage wise, but they're not. Then what happens? Then you assume that, okay, well, these people belong where they are, but they really don't, because they're doing this all in secrecy by running the government, the economy. Like, what else? Who's going to stop them? Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, girl, language, please. Sorry, my dog. Language, language, please. We can be civil. So, anyways, now, where am I going with this? You're probably thinking, what does this have to do with anything? Well, I'm getting there. Okay. I'm telling my testimony because it's important. And I think it can help somebody out there. Everybody's story of how they finally found Jesus Christ is going to be different. Most of them, maybe I'm saying this sarcastically, but most of the stories might be boring or whatever. Okay. This is just how mine went. Okay. I've committed a lot of sins. I need help, and that's not good. Okay. I've made mistakes just like everybody else. Everyone's a sinner. Okay. I never blasphemed the Holy Spirit, the unforgivable sin, and I am so thankful that that is one thing I did not do. Okay, I've made plenty of mistakes in my life, just like everybody else. Okay, now in the other thing, like, no, I'll get to that, and I don't want to skip. Okay, so here's the thing, right? What really changed my way into getting me really close to realizing that there has to be a God. Now I'm going to get to that. Okay, I don't mean that in a bad way, but what do I mean by that? Something so inconceivable, incomprehensible for me at the time to think that it was even possible to witness this, to see this, and to have this proven to me, to really change my entire viewpoint of life itself, to make me go, okay, there has to be a God now, because this is beyond a normal plane of thinking that I could just, something that I couldn't make up myself if I tried, basically. Okay. And it goes like this. Okay. I, two things. Okay. One, I used to argue like this for fun. I always have done this, even with nothing, things that are not serious at all, literally not at all. I would find a way to argue against the main point someone's making at all costs. Usually to be funny, but sometimes it can cross into serious territory. Of course, that can happen. I'll give you a very stupid example. Um, there was this science teacher in my school. I'm not his name, but I'll just say Mr. C. Okay. I'll say Mr. CR. Okay, to give you a hint for my friends watching and listening. And you better not comment, okay? Because I don't know. Anyways, so everybody, I never had this teacher. Everybody said, "Oh, I hate him. I hate Mr. CR." And for fun, now I never had him as a teacher myself. For fun, I would ask them. I would say, "Why? Why do you hate him? I bet he's a great teacher." Okay, and they would say, "No, the guy is just horrible. He sucks." And I'd say, "Why? Prove it to me. Why? What does he suck at? What's he doing wrong?" And they would say, "Well, just like the way he would make you take notes and stuff. It's like so annoying." And then I'd counter it. I'd say, "Well, everybody has to take notes, you guys. That's not his fault. I mean, that's part of the job. That's part of the course. That's part of the class. We have to take notes. So why blame him? You're not convincing me he's a bad teacher yet." Okay, I'll stop with my example. My point is, I did that for a long time for fun. Okay, now that's on the lighter side of things. That's just me being annoying. Okay, but when it came to serious things, right? I always said this. This one really baffled me. The chicken or the egg, right? What came first, the chicken or the egg? Okay, because eggs hatch, becomes a chicken, chicken grows up. Okay, or the chicken has to be grown up and go through the reproduction process to lay the egg for the chicken to see. It's a never ending thing. Everybody knows this. You've all heard that before. So I really, that really changed my way of thinking, and it got me a little closer to finding Jesus, because I remember arguing with somebody I really care about, and I said, well, I think it does make sense to have God. And this is before I was even in faith. This is before I even read the Bible or anything. This is my own thinking here. And I remember saying, we all came from someone who came from someone, who came from someone, who came from someone, etc. Where did that start? See, that brought me ironically closer, and I hadn't even read any scripture yet. I had read nothing. Nothing. I hadn't read any scripture yet. I was not well versed in faith at all, but that was my thought, and that was ironically pushing me closer to finding Jesus. Was I would argue that, and then they would say Big Bang Theory, and I'd say, okay, yeah, it's a theory that an explosion caused this all to happen, but then when we have emotions and stuff, that's just a bunch of cells reacting. They think that it's like chemical reactions and stuff that spawned human life and everything. See, those are the things that I remember thinking, well, I don't like that. Like it never, nobody ever convinced me of that. And again, this is before I even had faith. Isn't that crazy? This is before I even had faith. That, and then this other thing that I don't think anyone's going to relate to me on this, and that's fine. I'm my own individual weird person. Okay. But another thing that really proved to me, that really shook my understanding of life to as a core, to the whole, everything, was when I realized gematria numerology. Now, I want to make this extremely clear for everybody listening. I don't use this stuff. I don't. Did I make that clear? I don't use it. I don't practice it. I don't, none of that. Okay? So don't misquote me and misunderstand what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is when I discovered gematria numerology, that really made me realize these are beyond possibilities. Like this isn't something that could have happened by random happenstance. Like that's not a possibility. Okay. I said this in my previous videos. Okay. Gematria and numerology. If you don't know, there's different ciphers, but it basically goes with the alphabet. Each letter of the alphabet is assigned a number value that you mathematically add up, and then whatever. And words can equal this, and number equal this. Okay, you get. I'm not going to go over that. This isn't that. This isn't me teaching you that stuff. That's not my point. My point is this: when I saw, and I've seen this again and again and again, when I've seen with my own eyes several major events, important ones, catastrophes, and lame ones, but they go viral, quote unquote, or whatever, and they get a lot of traction on the internet. And I see celebrity deaths, things like that. There's always a gematria numerology connection. Now, that blew my mind. I said, I really had to stop and go, how is that possible? Because here's why I say that. Because it's not with other people, with quote unquote normal people, not famous people. So what does that mean? That means the people in those that take those pledges, take those oaths in the satanic bloodlines, they get to be a part of this thing where their lives are determined when they sell their soul that they're going to go to Satan. Goat Lucy is going to collect, and they are going to be famous, get the fame, and then have a dramatic fall, and the whole world's going to hate them for some probably contrived, probably created event made to embarrass them or whatever. Who knows if it's even real? That's not the point. But then, but the gematria numerology numbers somehow, in a spectacular sense, that is beyond belief. But it's math. That's the point. It's math, which means you can prove it, which is what really struck me as, okay, this is too much. This can't be a coincidence anymore. Okay? All right. Ilya, thank you for watching. Appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, type it up. I will answer your questions. Anyways, so when I see like when somebody famous dies, right? Their age, let's say they're 59 years old, they will die like 59 days after their 59th birthday. And that number 59 in gematria and numerology will coincide with like the city they were born in and like the words like blood ritual sacrifice or something. And that stuff really, really changed me. That stuff made me go, what? I went, there's no way. I like it really changed my way of thinking. It made me go, there's no possible way this could be true. But then I would look at everybody's examples that I could find, and I'm sure there's even more that we don't know about. And it really changed the way I was thinking. That combined with predictive programming, that stuff, I'm not kidding. At the time, it actually made me lose sleep. At the time I discovered it, see, now I'm so used to it, it's not that. At the time, I actually lost sleep because I couldn't comprehend it. I could, not knowing that this was helping actually, ironically, build my faith and make me fall in love with Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, who I owe everything to, who we all owe everything to. Okay, when I see predictive programming, I didn't have a way to explain it away. I wanted to, but I didn't have a way to explain it away. See, I had no idea. If you don't know, I'll make this very quick. Predictive programming is whenever some major event happens or a major death, celebrity, whatever death happens or whatever, you can always find predictive programming, meaning whether it's in a comic book, whether it's in an advertisement, whether it's in a newspaper title, whether it's in a scene in a movie, a scene in a cartoon, whether it's in a interview that they've done that eerily matches what happened to them, where they quote unquote predicted it exactly, unquote. There's always something like that. Okay, look at Kobe Bryant's death. He dies of a helicopter. There's 3 different instances of 3 different types of media from different times where they had Kobe Bryant and a helicopter and an explosion. You can't make that up, and that's how he allegedly died, was on a helicopter. Now, rest in peace. Okay, but that all happened. Okay, you can't explain that away. Now, of course, you can say, well, it is just a coincidence. What are you talking about? Okay, that works in isolation. It doesn't work when you have umpteenth thousands of examples of this. Then it stops working. That's when it stops working, because there's too many examples of it that have happened that I can no longer just pretend that it isn't proven to me. So I actually lost sleep, and I went, this doesn't make sense. This is actually supernatural by definition. It has to be. It has to be. There's no other way around it. Okay, this isn't scripted in one thing that I'm reading. This is all happening, and I can look this up and prove what I'm saying. And it shook me to my core. It made me go, okay, this is supernatural. This being a materialist, naturalist, it no longer applies. It can't apply. It can't. All right. All right. I'm going to read your comment, Ilya. And nobody will believe it because they're so brainwashed to the point it's normal to them. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. Thank you. Thank you. You've made the stream a success. You're awesome. I appreciate you. But yes, you are absolutely spot on correct. Of course, they won't believe it. Why? That's called cognitive dissonance, Ilya. That's because, and if I'm, by the way, if I'm saying your name wrong, I apologize. Okay, I am horrible with names. I'm the worst with names. I am garbage with names. Okay, but my sentiment is true. It's coming from my heart. But you're absolutely right. Cognitive dissonance is a real problem and a paradigm shift. People believe the world is this. So when you turn their world upside down and you tell them, no, no, the world is not this, it's something else, they go, huh? What? No, no, it's not. Screw you. How dare you try and tell me something's different? Hence the problem. Hello. Are you going to say hi, or are you just going to wag your tail in my face? Anyway, so, right, 100% that's a fact. And I appreciate your contribution to this. So, yes. Now, seeing that, it made me change my understanding. My understanding. I am right with your name. Okay. I am right with your name. Good. Good. I'm glad I got your name right. I am. I am. You can call me the wrong name if you want to. I deserve it. But thank you. Shout out to you. Got to give you a trophy or something. So yeah, when I got to when I get to understanding this stuff, it made me realize, okay, this is supernatural. There's no way to explain this away. I'm not gonna say there's no explanation for it. Wrong way to word it. There's no way to explain it away because I've seen this with my own eyes in all these events. Thank you. Thank you for scaring me. My dogs. My dogs. Tell you. And so going on with this, okay. What did that do? What did that do to me? It made me stop and go, okay, I can no longer positively now. I can't ever pretend or say ever that I am an atheist. Now, like I said, I never quite consider myself that, thank goodness, because I was still too scared to ever insult the Lord or insult the Bible like a lot of my friends and peers were doing. Okay. And so those friends of mine that I don't talk to anymore, I hope you guys have found Jesus. I really do. But I'm just saying, I'm just telling you history. Okay. A lot of people growing up, man, a lot of people after high school that I hung out with, they loved insulting Jesus. They loved insulting the Bible and everything. And I was too scared to even do that. Okay. And I'm a battle rapper. I've said everything under the sun. I was too scared to blaspheme the Holy Spirit. I couldn't do that. Okay. Now, I have said the Lord's name in vain in some of my raps and freestyles, and I am ashamed of that. I did make a video apologizing about that, but that's just a video. The more important to me than the public is the Lord. I hope the Lord forgives me for that because there's no excuse. No excuse. Continue. There's over 14,000 words in the English language, and you choose to use God and the DAMN together. Come on. Come on. We got to be better, everybody. Anyways, boy, do I like to change subject. So, so understanding predictive programming, gematria, and numerology, and that people come from something. They can't just, a big bang doesn't make sense to me to create life, and then life has emotions, life evolves to this point, to the point we have videos and phones and technology. Like it never made sense to me. But now all those things combined made me realize something. There is a God. There is a God. There is an intelligent designer. Okay. Life as we know it has intelligent design. There's things that just cannot be simply just explained with science. Okay, you can try, but it doesn't convince me. It doesn't. We live on a planet, okay, in the solar system, in the galaxy. We are 93 million miles away from the sun. We depend on the sun's rays to give us life and sustain life. We need that light. We need the sun to survive. Yet we are not far enough away that we would freeze to death, okay? But we are not close enough to the sun that we would actually burn and melt to death. We are literally sitting at the right spot to actually fit and exist on this planet. Do you realize how insane that is? If you didn't already know this, if I'm telling you stuff you already know, sorry. Okay. But that's crazy, right? Exactly. Yes, Ilya, you're the best. Exactly. Yes. See, I didn't understand that stuff. I didn't know about that stuff, and science can't make sense of that. It doesn't work. We are lucky to even live. We're lucky to even be alive. And then there's miracles that we take for granted today because they happen so often we don't think about it. How many people die clinically, medically die, but they come back to life revived? Like their heart is actually dead, but they do get revived somehow beyond the realm of normal medical capabilities. Okay, look up John Burke, Burke. Excellent example. He's documented thousands of cases of people medically and clinically dead and shows how they've seen the afterlife. They've seen their pets in the afterlife, which makes sense, coinciding with Isaiah 11. They've seen Jesus in there, giving them warnings and stuff. They've seen hell. They've seen playing baseball with their family. Like that's so beautiful. Can you imagine how beautiful heaven's going to be when Jesus comes back for those of us that deserve it? It's like, see, these are things like I didn't think about. Another miracle. Think about this. Of all the species in the world, right? Okay, dogs, shut your big ears. Pretend I'm not talking about you for a minute. Okay, dogs. Dogs have baby dogs, puppy dogs, right? What's different about them? They all look exactly the same, and they're barely any different. They're just barely any functioning difference between them. They look like dog one, dog two, dog three. Okay, barely any differences. Yet, how many of you have siblings? We birth human beings, and we all come from the same thing, the same mother and father for us that are siblings. Yet we are entirely different than each other's sibling. That's a miracle in itself. How you might even be a twin. How different are you from your twin or your triplet or whatever. How many of you and your brother or sister were raised in the same house, same parents, did this all together, went to the same schools and everything, grew up doing the same things, but you're very, very different people. Your interests are different and everything. Your paths are different. Your choices are different. That in itself is a miracle we take for granted today because we don't think about it. We don't put it into perspective. I had to be humbled myself and look at that and start understanding that. I had to really get that really woke me up a lot. I had to start understanding more about life and more about things that I wouldn't even dream of thinking about before because I was young, I was dumb, and I thought I knew everything. I thought, oh, I know everything. I don't need to look anything up. I don't need to research anything. I can just figure it out on my that's the dumb, young, dumb way that I was thinking. So now that I know there is a God, okay, when I told you the insane, unbelievable connections that are provable in gematria and numerology. Now, those are math. You realize when I say math, I hope that's clicking. Math can be proven. You can type it in on your own calculators and prove it. Like it's not a theory. I can prove it. That's the problem. That like any insane coincidence, okay? Like when Stephen Hawking died on Pi Day, March 3rd month, 14th, 14 day. That's pi 3.14, March 14th, 3 space 14. And then that number 314 in gematria numerology also coincides with, I have to look this up, but it was the longest list I've ever seen. It was like it coincided with with that basketball player Stephen something spelled the same. It coincided with him doing something for a long. It was like it was like his 30th birthday or something, and all this crazy stuff, and then blood ritual sacrifice and all this stuff. This stuff that you can prove with math. Okay, that's what made me realize that's beyond like the normal scope of testing a scientific theory. This is something supernatural. Really, really, guys, my dogs. Yep. So that really woke me up. That really made me realize there is a God. There has to be a God. There's no way around it anymore. This is supernatural. So where do I go from here? And I go, well, I don't know. And that's my thing was not knowing where to start, where to go, because I'm I'm at level 1 at this point in my life. At this age that I was at the time, I'm like, okay, I know now 100% there's no longer a debate anymore. There is a God, there is an intelligent designer that is real. Now, come on. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? You're breaking hearts over here. You're breaking my heart. Okay? What are you doing? What are you doing? You're silly. So, with that being said, what I decided I needed to figure out, of course, is so which religion is right? Now, I'm laughing now because the answer was right in front of me the whole time, obviously. But being somebody that knew nothing about religion and the differences in them, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to find the answer at the time. I didn't know who to ask. I didn't know what. And it's like, what do you do? Just go on the internet and say which one is right? That doesn't work, you know. I didn't have a way of in my at the time in my mind being negative, being pessimistic. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So what I ended up doing, so random. I came across another. I'm going to say this because you'll know what I mean by it, even though I hate this term. But a so-called conspiracy theorist. That's not. I don't like that term. It's a loaded term. It comes from the Warren Commission. It invites ridicule and it makes people think stupid things that we don't believe, such as every conspiracy is real when most conspiracies are wrong. So I hate using that term. But at least if I say it, you'll know what I'm talking about. So that's why I'm saying it. So conspiracy theory. I met a friend. Amazing person, changed my life. Great guy. Shout out to you if you're watching. You'll know who you are. But what blew my mind about this guy, so he was breaking down conspiracies and everything, just like I was. This is before I was doing it on the internet, but I was doing it too. And when he was doing it, he had this. uncanny ability of relating all of these situations to scripture. And it made me go, what? I go, how do you do that? Like, it, to my dumb young mind, my pessimistic negative mind, I'm like, no, there's no way that can be related to anything. Like that was so long ago, right? That's the idea, right? That was so long ago that couldn't possibly relate to today. That was my dumb line of thinking. Being young, dumb, immature, that's what it was. To now see, okay, he was doing it with anything. Every major event that would happen that would have some sketchy stuff going on that makes it an actual conspiracy, like the definition of conspiracy, I'm saying. And it would look like, okay, this, what we're being told about this event is false. He had this uncanny ability. He would relate it to the Bible. He would use Bible verses and scriptures and everything. And I was going, wow, this is really, really mind blowing. Like, I didn't know that could relate. Like, I didn't know, unless it was something really obvious, okay, like the rapture or something. But you know what I mean? Like, I was like, wow, he's like showing all these verses, showing about how, like, there's false gods and people, human beings that think they can be gods themselves. And he's showing the verses. He's showing it. He's explaining it. And I'm just like, whoa, like, you can find that in the Holy Bible. See, again, young, dumb, not knowing anything about it, not reading it yet. I didn't know, and it opened my heart big time. It made me go, okay, I got to study this. I got to figure this out. Because when I looked at other religions, okay, I met a Jehovah's Witness, very nice guy, very, like, kind guy. Like, you would all like him, okay, kind guy. But I couldn't understand what he was talking about. Like, he was trying to sell me on this idea of the watchtower position, and it just, I'm like, dude, I don't see what you're seeing. I just don't. It doesn't work. And I didn't want to be rude about it. I'm like, but it doesn't work. Okay, so that was out for me, and thank goodness, because now, knowing, being way knowledgeable in the faith now, that was never going to happen, or turn out good if it did happen, quote unquote. So glad that put a stop to it. Okay, then obviously looking at the major three religions, I had to go, okay, they all start with Abraham. That's where they all connect. Okay. And then obviously the lineages go on. Okay. Now, I always thought, could they all be right? This is my young, dumb way of thinking, not knowing anything about religion at the time. At the time, didn't know anything. And I'm like, could they all relate? Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't know. Studying and looking at the differences between them all. And then this was my key. This is what helped me. This is the most important part of the video for me. This is the linchpin of this whole thing, is the moment I realized Jesus has to be real, and that despite all the flaws that human beings have, this happened. He did come here. He did die for us. He did resurrect. And now he is glorified in heaven, the heavenly body, exalted on the throne. Like, I had to understand. Here was my thing. Let me rephrase it. As corny as this sounds, I went for a shortcut. I went for a shortcut. What the heck do I mean by I went for a shortcut? Okay, I went like this. Holy Bible. That's the key, right? Right? This is the book. This is what I need. This is going to have all the answers. But how do I know this is real? That's where I started. I went, that's number one. If I find out that this is fake, or that this was corrupted or ruined or made up, or if there was some scandal that seemed like, okay, this isn't really authentic, that this could have came from any number of scammers, like, I didn't know what to think at the time. I'm saying, before I did any research, I'm like, I need to know, because looking at it positively, right, if it is, I'm a nice guy, I'm giving my dog a belly rub while I'm doing this, okay, I'm a nice guy, but I'm thinking, right, if I can find perfect proof that the Bible is real, that this is a real thing and this is not some scam or something, that's the shortcut I need. Then I'm ready to read it and actually read it to learn. Not just read it to read it, but read it to learn, to learn. So I had to find that out. So how did I do that? Well, I had to look at a lot of stuff. Now, I'm going to give you some names. I've mentioned this in my other videos, okay? But these are important figures to listen to, okay? Check this out. Daniel Wallace. Daniel Wallace, this is a very important person, okay? He is the king of I don't want to say documentarian. There's another word. I don't want to misrepresent him because I love the guy, respect him very much. Okay, help me find Jesus. Okay, but I not personally. I haven't talked to him. That's not what I'm saying. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But anyways, Daniel Wallace. Okay, he's like a documentarian expert, but there's another word for it, and I'm going to screw it up, and I'm not going to waste any more time. Okay, but he shows, okay, and no, it's not in a dispute or anything. He shows that what is the most okay manuscripted source we have today. Okay, now here's what that means, because some people will get this confused and not understand what he's saying. As in, when you have something happen, okay, like King Caesar, okay, in Rome or whatever, you have stories written about him, okay, and then those get passed on and written again and passed on, written again until the printing press. And then that changed everything. Obviously, duh, I don't have to explain that. Okay, obviously. These things in the ancient world were written on papyri or whatever. So they were on scrolls and stuff. So this was very differently done than how we do today. Obviously, I know I'm speaking the obvious there, but here's why I'm bringing that up so people can understand what I'm saying. So Daniel Wallace explains the second, number 2, most manuscripted, transcripted copy of anything in our history today before the printing press we have is Odyssey. Now, you've heard of Odyssey, Homer. It's one of those epic stories from the ancient times, right? Okay. do you know do you know how far detached that was from the time it was written, the first copy? 300 years, if my memory is right. I don't want to misquote. We can look that up. You can look that up and fact check that yourself. But my point is still valid. Okay, whatever it was. Point being, it was centuries apart. Centuries apart. What does that say? That tells you it could be easily corrupted, quote unquote, changed, altered, etc. in that time. That's a long time. Hundreds of years. That's a long time. You could be misremembering things, and so many things could happen. Now, how high do those manuscripts go? He shows us. Daniel Wallace, the expert here, not me, Daniel Wallace, the expert, the actual expert. It goes as high as a podium at a school, like a teacher's podium, a desk. Okay? What's number 1? Number 1, ladies and gentlemen, is the New Testament of the Holy Bible. Guess how high it goes? The Statue of Liberty. No, the Empire State Building. That's what he said. But it's the same point. Yes, Daniel Wallace said it goes up. That's how many there are. It goes up to the Empire State Building. Now, what does that mean, manuscripts? Just because I don't want people to misunderstand what we're saying. That's not a translation. That's not what we're. A manuscript is this. This is pre-printing press. Okay? Pre-printing press. You have the New Testament. Okay? You copy it on other papyrus paper. They did that over 20,000 times in the first century. Okay? Over 20,000 times. That is absolutely they did what God trusted them to do. Okay? They wrote it, they copied it, they got it out here. Now, when people find errors, what's funny is people will try and use that as an excuse. Oh, you see, it was corrupted. In this one it says 8, in this one it says 18. Corruption. Which one do we trust? No, people don't understand the difference. And I had to learn this myself. So, I mean, this could happen to anybody, not an insult, but people don't understand the difference between a transliter error where somebody is writing down a copy of something, right? So they let's say the number is, and then there was 18, okay, and then there was 18, 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 and then there was 8, and then there was 18, and there was 18. Okay, you get my point. That one that accidentally says 8, that went to somewhere. That went to somewhere. Where whatever. That's not the point. It went to somewhere, but it doesn't matter. All the other ones with the correct number went to everywhere else. Do you get my point? I hope I'm making my point clear. Okay. So yeah, errors like that. Why? Because it's a human being writing and copying it. Do you make mistakes when you're using Microsoft Word or whatever? Do you make a typo when you send a text? Yes. Imagine doing it back then without those types of things, and you're doing it by hand on a scroll of papyrus or whatever. That's what we're talking about. Those types of errors, not something major. Okay. On top of that, take the New Testament aside. Okay. The Old Testament, Daniel Wallace has tons of examples, but I'll just give the one that I'm most familiar with. Obviously, we all know this: the Dead Sea Scrolls. This was discovered in 1947, and this discovery changed a lot of things. This discovery was proven. Nobody disputes this. So this isn't Adam Stark's opinion. The Dead Sea Scrolls are all proven to be around 165 BC. Okay, that is before Jesus even walked the earth. Okay, that contained all the Old Testament books except Esther. For whatever reason, didn't have Esther from the Bible. It had everything else, and it's the same things that we read today. So that wasn't corrupted, obviously. And again, I already explained the New Testament, so I don't have to go over this and belabor the point. So that made me go, okay, so it wasn't corrupted. That was a big, yes, but that was step one for me to realize now I'm ready to read it. See, as dumb as this sounds, a lot of people, because a lot of you are better than me, and I say that, and I don't feel bad saying that to myself. It's just a fact. A lot of you are better than me. Be proud of yourself. A lot of you were willing to read it on faith alone, and shout out to you. Shout out to your heart. See, I have this problem where I was so skeptical about every single thing, which I still am. Okay, that's my motto on the Stark Truth News Report: be skeptical of everything. That's what I say, right? And sorry, I'm messing with my dog. Yeah, you got a lot of toys. Anyway, so me being so skeptical, I had to know I could trust what I'm even reading before reading it, because I didn't want to feel like, again, I don't even want to say it like this because it's going to feel wrong saying it. It's going to feel disgusting saying it. But I didn't want to feel like I was, quote unquote, wasting my time if I'm reading a corrupted book. So I had to know this isn't corrupted. Like, that was my thing. I had to know, like, I had to really know. Daniel Wallace put that to sleep all the way to me, understanding it. Because it's not just that I know it wasn't corrupted, but that I can reconcile the problems that I thought it had, like I said already. Well, wow, look at this. In Second Chronicles, it says 8 instead of whatever. Now I know why. Okay. Point is understanding this. This helped me a lot. People don't know this, and I'm not saying I did. I had to learn this. Don't feel bad if you don't know this. Okay, I had to learn this. That human beings wrote the Bible. Human beings, prophets, inspired by the Holy Spirit. Okay, so they were writing things that were divinely inspired. Okay, but human beings were writing them. See, I didn't know that. I did something very stupid, and I just assumed, because I didn't know anything, because I was young and dumb, like I've said this whole video, I assumed that, hey, the Bible is God's word. God wrote the Bible and put it on the ground and on earth. See, being ignorant, I didn't know any better. I didn't know any different. I had no idea. How would I know? I'm not going to make it up and just guess. Well, technically, I did at that time, I guess. So I retract that. But you get my point. I thought God wrote the Bible. No, idiot. Human beings wrote the Bible. Prophets wrote the Bible. And they were human beings. So that means they're writing it down that means they can make mistakes. They can. Now, that means if there is something different that we read today that wasn't written 6,000 years ago or whatever, it doesn't have to mean the whole Bible is wrong. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that whoever was transliterating, copying the next scroll to keep this going for whatever book they were on, okay, if they saw 8, but they're like, does that say 18 or 8? I don't know. And they were scared because they didn't want to disrespect the Holy Spirit, and they were in fear of the Lord when they're writing this. Like, imagine it was you being the copyist. They went, it looks like 18. I'm going to write 18. See, I had to learn, humble myself and understand that, and I have. And that's helped me realize that all these supposed errors and contradictions, they can be reconciled. Okay? Everything I have looked up, I have spent a lot of time looking up every objection to the Holy Bible, every objection that says, oh, this is a contradiction that's irresolvable. I found the answers. That was my problem, always getting scared and thinking, oh, they've got me. Oh, no, there is always an answer. There's always an answer. Okay? We don't have another thing, not to do with that, but we don't know every single thing Jesus ever said. We don't know. There's lots of things Jesus did and Jesus said on earth that simply wasn't recorded, because how could it have been all recorded? It couldn't have been. That's you would have you would have had to have Rumble and Facebook Live there. I'm being silly, but you get my point. Okay, hopefully somebody out there laughed at that. Otherwise, just look at my face and you'll laugh. So my point being, like, that's the learning, the humbleness. I had to stop assuming so negatively about everything and realizing there is an answer. Okay, gotten there. Now, the last thing I'm going to say about this that showed me that the Bible is not corrupted, that this helped me a lot. Bart Ehrman, if you don't know, or sometimes it goes by Ehrman, I mean, everybody's pronunciation is different. It's not the point. Okay, this is a scholar. This man is an atheist. He is hostile to Christianity. Yet, he ironically has helped me in my own faith. And you're thinking, well, what the heck are you talking about? If you don't know who that is. Okay, Bart Ehrman, he takes scholarly history and everything. He is second on. He is brilliant. He's a brilliant man. Okay, he just doesn't believe in the divinity or anything. But he says, even he does. This is an enemy to Christianity, folks. He says 100% Jesus Christ existed. He said there is no reason to doubt that he existed. He existed historically. He really was there. He really was crucified. He admits all of that. Okay. He says, yeah, Paul was a real person. Paul really did write Thessalonians and Corinthians and stuff. And Luke really did write Luke and Acts and whatever. Okay. He says all that. He just denies the divinity part. Okay. He denies the divinity parts of it because he is an atheist. He even debated somebody. Now, I can't remember the guy's name. Ugh, I hate when I do that. I think his name was Robert or Gary or something. Forget. I'm not going to remember. Bart Ehrman debated somebody. The guy he debated, actually another atheist or whatever, he actually conceded the debate. He agreed. Bart Ehrman has way too much evidence to prove Jesus Christ did exist, and these New Testament books were, yes, actually written in the first century, okay, AD. He says all that, and he proved all that, and he's been doing all that. He just denies the divinity, stuff like that, okay? But that really shocked me. That really made me go, what? I go, now, hypothetically, if I were to be an atheist today, I can't even take the position that, forgive me, that hypothetically that Jesus didn't exist. I couldn't even hypothetically make that claim if I was an atheist today. That really made me go, I go, what? It woke me up so hard. I was like, dude, I am absolutely, my mind is blown. My mind is blown, okay? So the New Testament books, he's pinned it down to 49 AD for which one I can't remember right now, and I'm not going to look it up. This you can all do this yourself. But this is an atheist, hostile Christian to Christianity scholar, Bart Ehrman, telling you that at 49 AD, I can't remember which one, but one of the New Testament books was written. Now that would be 16 years after Jesus died. That's within 2 decades of Jesus' death, and they're writing this. Okay, they're writing about Jesus. They're writing about Jesus being the Son of God. They're writing about Jesus dying, being crucified, and being resurrected, and being witnessed by the 500 people. Okay, now why is this important? This is the moment my faith shook. I think I started to cry when I realized this, because this is before me reading the Bible. This is before I knew, unlike the rest of you, would shout out to you all, because you just did it by faith, and I'm so proud of you guys all. Seriously, for whatever reason, maybe this is God's plan for me, I don't know, I had too many doubts. I had to prove that this is real before I read it. Real, it sounds offensive. I don't mean it like that. Okay, you know what I mean. But this is what really solidified it for me. 49 AD. Okay, they're mentioning people and customs in this book that are not Jews. They're mentioning Greeks. They're mentioning Rufus, Simon Rufus. They're mentioning people that were there at the time, the centurion, the Roman soldier, and everything. People that were there at the time of Jesus. And here's why it's important. This absolutely blew my mind. If you guys already know this, then I'm annoying you, and I apologize. But I didn't know this at the time. It blew my mind. Okay, the thought: if you're mentioning people that were actually there at the time, that within 20 years of Jesus' life, who lived at that area, okay, who lived at this area, this wasn't far away from them, and all those names are mentioned, and there's all those witnesses. If they were lying about it, then they would have been not only killed, but these books that were written about that lie would have been obviously burned away and gone. It would have been destroyed. They wouldn't let that stuff stay. They wouldn't let that stuff get circulated in the world. Are you kidding me? The Roman army, you're opposing the Romans? Like, are you kidding me? Back in their heyday? And you're telling them they witnessed a Jew that's not ethnically Greek, that's not their people, and a quote unquote criminal who was being tried on the trial, right? And who people started worshiping as God instead of who the Greeks were worshiping at the time, Hermes and Zeus and Athena and all that. They instead they stopped and they started worshiping this Jewish man who is quote unquote a criminal. They started worshiping him instead of the Greek gods that they were already worshiping. If they were lying, you realize, and I didn't realize it at the time, that's why I needed my help. They would have destroyed those books. They never would have circulated. It would have been over. Christianity wouldn't have gone past that point. They would have no shot at it. But they didn't do anything to stop it because they weren't lying. That's the point. That's that eureka moment that I had that made me, combined with everything else I said, stuff about Daniel Wallace and the transcript and the Dead Sea Scrolls and everything. Those were the moments I had that made me go, wow, I did it. Like, I really did it, you guys. I know God is real now. I know it because everything points to this. Okay. Now, with everything I've said combined, now I start reading the Bible. Okay. I love it. It has absolutely transformed and changed my life. And I'm going to keep reading it. I'm going to keep rereading it. I'm going to go on and on and on. Okay. And every time there's some question I had, I got the answers to. That's the key. There is always an answer. Don't be like me, where somebody brings a serious objection and then you go, oh, there's no answer, and then you go, oh no, they falsified it, it doesn't work. And no, there is always an answer, folks. Trust me, there is always an answer. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This is where I'm at now. Okay. I was going to a church, right? Very nice people, very kind people. But then I had to get humbled again. Okay. Somebody showed me, they challenged me. Because I used to say, because of conspiracy theories stuff, I said, nope, the Catholic Church, that's out. I can't believe in that. And then I would say, well, I don't know what other one to try. I'll try this one. I'll try that one. Like that. That's kind of what my attitude was. I was like, well, you know. Now I'm going to pause for a second. The most important thing, just please, before I speak, please, the most important thing, as long as you worship Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, that He is God, He is the Son of God, and that you worship the Trinity, that's all that actually matters. Where the church you go to, nothing's ever going to be perfect, of course, okay? But as long as those things are in your heart, that's what's most important, okay? Now that I've said that, I'm going to continue, okay? I had to learn about the Trinity. Now, reading the Old Testament, I'm not a good, don't get me wrong, I'm not a good reader. I am a slow reader. I have to reread. I am not one of those people that can just, no, that's not me. I'm a slow reader, okay? But I didn't realize all these connections of the Trinity in the Old Testament. See, I didn't know any of that. Somebody had to humble me and prove to me that there was a Trinity, to the point my jaw hit the floor and I had to go, yep. I had to go, yes, the Trinity is actually a thing. People are not just saying it, and it's not actually a debate. It's a Trinity. Like, it's not a debate. Okay. Then where did I go from there? I went, well, I have to go to a church, but they have to believe in the Trinity, or else they just are a false church. Now, that part still is true, by the way, honestly. But I was going somewhere. Then I got humbled again. Someone said, they said, the only churches that are actually real are the ones connected to the apostles, and that means it's going to be between the Catholic Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church, the Oriental Orthodox Church, the Assyrian Church. Like, and I started going, but all these conspiracy theories said things like you worship Mary, you worship the saints, and you whatever, and you pray to saints. See, those were the things I was being told. Okay, I had to get humbled again, and I said that proudly. I don't care. I don't, because this is bigger than me. This is bigger than my little feelings. This is about salvation. Okay, this person in my life showed me. Well, not even that. Challenged me. Said, "Oh, really? Okay, prove it then. Prove it to me right now. I want you to prove it to me that what you're saying is true." Okay, and I tried, and then he's showing me. Okay, there is intercession of saints. Okay, there is praying to Mary, to pray to Jesus and intercede for us. There is that. And where did we get the Bible from in the first place? How do we know the Bible we're reading today is trustworthy? Well, this is done by the apostles and stuff. Well, a lot of churches are not connected to the apostles, because look at early church history. There was churches that were participating in sacraments and the Eucharist and stuff. And the Eucharist we get from manna and stuff. You can read that in the Bible. The manna, that Moses had in the forest, that the food came down. Well, the food then later is in the New Testament. See, well, that was Jesus that did that, and then Jesus made the bread. The bread was manna, and etc. I don't have to belabor the point. The Eucharist, okay. Churches that don't do that, I was young and dumb and ignorant, and I was challenging back while saying, well, why do we need that? What's the big deal? See, I had to be humbled, and it worked. He said, I want you to prove it. Prove to me that you don't need it. And I'm trying and stuff. Then he really showed me. And I had to really realize I'm wrong. I'm wrong. I'm very wrong. Okay. So my point is, the church has to be connected to the apostles, because the early church history shows that the Bible that was made by the Catholics. Okay. Then the church had a schism. And then during that schism, they still agreed on the basic core principles that matter and the sacraments. That's where we get the differences between Catholicism and Orthodoxy. So despite all the believing in conspiracy theories and stuff that I used to, okay, I had to realize it doesn't mean that church is wrong. See, I look at things like the Pope and things like that, activities that I don't like and I didn't agree with and stuff. But the papacy is in Catholicism. The papacy is denied in Orthodoxy and stuff. I had to learn this stuff, but at least they're both connected to the apostles, and this is how the apostles were running churches in the early church history. You can look that up yourself. That's where I got humbled again, and happily, and I realized, wow, I really had a lot to learn, and I really have to get this right because this does matter. So I stopped going to the church I was going to, as much as I like them. Okay, if you don't believe in the Trinity, okay, and you're not connected to the early church fathers, then they are the ones that know what they're doing. They're the ones that are entrusted by God. Now they're not perfect; they can make mistakes, but then that's on them. That wrath and judgment for mistakes, and God forbid, criminal mistakes, like people in the Vatican have done all this stuff. They will be judged the harshest. You see, that's what I was missing. That's what I was missing. I used to look at it like the conspiracy theorists would say, well, the church was completely hijacked. Completely. I had to be humbled and learn, because you know what he said to me? He said, okay, then prove it to me. Show me. And I tried showing my theories, every conspiracy I had, I'd throw it at him, and he found a way to show that wasn't true. It wasn't effective like presenters make it seem like. Okay? So I had to learn, I had to be humbled, and this is where I want to leave this video. This stream, my testimony and my Q&A, even though nobody asked questions, right? But we had some participation, which is nice. Okay, what I want to leave this stream is, first, my dog's going to say hi, apparently. Okay, say hi. Say hi. Oh, scary. Oh, too scary. Better look away. No, but anyways, I wanted to say thank you all for listening. That's my testimony. I hope my testimony helps somebody out there, because the main point I want to make is, even the biggest skeptic ever, the person that is so skeptical that they will go to every length they can to try and disprove something, which is me, okay? That even someone like me found faith, and I found the true faith, the only faith, Jesus Christ. Okay, Hebrews 1:8. Look at John 10:30. All these verses. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the only way to heaven. Okay, when you're praying to somebody else, you're not doing yourself any favors. It doesn't work that way. Okay, get out of here with that nonsense. Cut the cannoli, folks. Find your salvation. Be better people. Repent, and don't make stupid mistakes like I did. Okay, don't make stupid mistakes like I did. Okay, if you're going to go to a church, and I recommend you all do, but I'm saying, if you're going to go to church, please go to a church that's connected to the early church fathers in history. Please do that. Apostolic churches, please do that. All right, God bless you, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for participating. This will be nice to watch and have fun on the rewatch, the replays. Leave your comments. If you have comments post live on this video, comment. I will answer your questions there as well, unless I think it's gross or stupid. Okay. All right, I'm done. You want to say bye too? You want to say bye? Come on. Okay. You say bye too. Say bye. You don't even look at the camera. What's up with that? Oh, that's too scary. Don't show your teeth, you savage animal. Hey. Deuteronomy 33:7. What do we got?
Okay.
What do we got?
I don't know.
Oh, come on, brother. You know.
I know Leviticus 18.
All right, you get back to me, man. Funny man. All right. Now, sorry for that weird transition. Where are we at?
So, forgive this weird transition. This is the problem with being Adam Stark, and when I do live videos, I forget important things, meaningful things, and so that's why I shouldn't do live videos. Or at least I should have notes or something while I'm doing them, but I don't. So anyways, I did a live video the other day, and hopefully you all saw it, enjoyed it. Some of you participated, and that was awesome. I'm going to continue off of things with that live video right now. I was giving my testimony of how I found Jesus and how I believe in God, the Almighty, the Triune God, and how I have found faith after all these years of not having faith, and how the very skeptical, insanely skeptical person like myself was even able to find God. That means you can too. So I wanted to add 2 points that I'm so mad at myself I completely forgot about, because I listened to my Q&A testimony live stream and I realized, wow, I missed 2 things, important things that I hate when that happens, man. I hate it. Ask anybody that does live shows. I'm sure they'll tell you they forget things as soon as they're done. They go, oh, I forgot to say that, you know. So I'm going to fix it right now and just do it as a regular upload. So one thing is that helped me out a lot was, have you guys ever heard, please tell me, let me know. Have you guys ever heard of Sir William Ramsay? Okay, this is such a cool story. That, to me, this is brilliant. This is a name that should be out there way more. Okay, I never heard of him. I went my whole life never hearing about this man and this man's story. This man was an atheist, a devout atheist. Okay, so he had no dog in the race for Christianity, let alone any other religion. He wanted to disprove the New Testament so badly that he made it his mission, okay? This is a smart man. This isn't just some random guy. This is a smart man with credentials and everything. He wanted to disprove the New Testament, specifically the New Testament, okay? He wasn't worried about the Old Testament. He wanted to disprove the New Testament, okay? So, using the New Testament, he used the New Testament and traveled to all those countries where these things took place, okay? This was in the 1900s. He went to Turkey, he went to Istanbul, he went to a bunch of places, okay? His intent fully was to use those locations, those discoveries, going there archaeologically, speaking to people, looking at places, physical locations, seeing things, seeing scribes of things, seeing physical features of places. He wanted to disprove the New Testament, okay? That was his goal. And by going there, using the New Testament as a guide, okay, which is funny how you can't use that with other religious texts. Isn't that kind of funny? Isn't that ironic? Right? But yet they attack the Holy Bible. Anyways, he goes there and it ends up doing the exact opposite of what he was planning on doing. So get this, a hostile to Christianity atheist goes to all those places because he had the means to do so, the means, the wealth to travel and everything, okay? And he had the smarts to actually apply science and historicity and all that stuff. He goes there and he ends up becoming a full devout Christian, okay? So he was saved. He was actually saved before he passed away. Now, how beautiful is that? He had the opposite intent, and instead, he ended up seeing all these things. He was so impressed with Luke, okay? Now, Luke wrote, obviously, Luke, the Gospel of Jesus according to Luke, and he wrote Acts, okay, etc. He used that as a geographical guideline, and what it ended up doing for him, it ended up proving everything Luke was saying to be true. He was, in fact, here's the point. Everything I'm talking about right now was all in his book. He published a book about all this. He then goes on to say, can you imagine how awesome this is for an academic to say this? He then goes on to say that Luke should be considered one of the greatest historians of all time. Now, why would he say that? Because Luke, the Greek, who wrote in the New Testament, those books, okay, he actually was so good and precise about mentioning things that ended up being proven to be true and reliable under scrutiny later. So the things that he describes, the things that he talks about, that Luke talks about, the author, ends up being factual and proven in modern times. Now, how amazing, how beautiful is that? Okay, that was one big thing that helped me realize my faith as well, is wow, you got somebody hostile to Christianity that sees that and says, no, that right there is he's able to discover things looking at it when that was not his intent at all. His intent was to disprove it. He wanted to write a book saying, I'm going to show you how to disprove the New Testament. That was his goal. And it didn't work. He had to be honest with himself. When he looks at things, he looked at carvings in the walls and stuff. You got to read this book. In the walls and stuff of very important places. And when he saw that, it's exactly as it was written in these first century documents, okay, of the books that Luke specifically wrote. Now, how beautiful is that? To me, that is an incredible, amazing, it's a monumental, astonishing feat to see of humanity, of mankind, to be able to see that. Blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind. My mind is still blown right now, obviously, okay? And I'm going to take a side note before I get to my number 2. This is very random, but I wanted to say this anyway. I heard the dumbest argument the other day, and in case this argument ever comes up again, I want to go through this right now. Okay, somebody actually said this, and I'm laughing. Okay, but for somebody that doesn't know anything about faith, period, maybe they don't know this either, so it's good to talk about it. So in case it comes up, you don't have to make dumb arguments. Okay, there was an argument made that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that those are not Middle Eastern names. So therefore, that somehow proves that the New Testament is false, because those are people, nice try, but it's very pathetic. Those are translated names from their original language, okay? So like Luke, yes, his name is not Luke. It's Lukos, okay? Or Lukaus. I might be saying it wrong. It's Greek. Okay, for example, all 4 of them, that's not their real name. That's their name being westernized for translation purposes, you guys. Don't use dumb arguments like that, okay? It's kind of sad, but kind of funny at the same time. But that's what ignorance does, okay? For a long time, I was ignorant, okay? I'm no better. But now, knowing better, I mean, it's laughable. That's what they try to say proves that it's false. Come on, you guys. It's just crazy. Anyways, okay. I had to get that out of the way, I guess, apparently. Okay. Now, the other thing that really helped my faith, this was extremely mind-blowing, and it just goes to show how society reacts to inspired scripture, okay? Prophet Daniel, from the books of Daniel, okay, in the Holy Bible in the Old Testament. These are dated in the 600 BC time, okay? 600 BC. This revelation was so incredible, so profound, that it actually astonishes people that read it and could see it actually did prophesy events in the future. Now get this. It describes a lot of things, but I'm just going to stick to the 2 points. One of them being Jesus Christ and him coming and him becoming flesh, but still God, and then getting sacrificed. So it says all that stuff. Now, of course, a skeptic who's not Christian is going to say, well, besides that, because that's just your book saying that it's using your other book and blah, blah, blah. I already know how the objection's going to go. You're going to say, well, I'm not a Christian, so I don't care about a Christian source confirming another Christian source. Okay. Then this one blew my mind. Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, that is not anything in the Bible except mentioned here in Daniel, around 600 BC, okay, which is not in dispute. Around 600 BC, the revelation from God that was given to Daniel, Prophet Daniel is describing Alexander the Great's rise and fall perfectly, exactly as it happened. Literally insane, you guys. This blew my mind, and I wish more non-Christians could hear this, and even seasoned Christians could hear this, because it's so magnificent, it's so glorious, and so beautiful that I wish we could all hear this, okay? Now, I'm not going into details. There's a lot of great videos about this. You can look this up yourself. A lot of great information out there and scholars and stuff. And I'm going to get to the funny way how society reacts to this, okay? But it perfectly describes, and this is hundreds of years before that happened, in real history, real life, okay? Describes Alexander the Great's rise, how the kingdom separated into 4 horns, and how one of the horns betrayed the other 3, and everything. It describes it absolutely flawlessly and exactly how it came to be, you guys. Wow. Okay? That's mind-blowing that it says that. Okay? So how in the world do you now look at that and try and say, oh, there's no God, or oh, it's not true? This is how pathetic it is, okay? I really wanted to know myself. You go on sources like Wikipedia. You go on sources that you use for your school sources. You go up and you look at these things, okay? So get this. When it comes to scholars, these are people that you look for information that you can use for references when you're doing anything for your schooling, for your schoolwork. When you reference people that you're using for your schoolwork, okay? What they actually do, they actually say, they actually claim this, that anybody that is a scholar, they claim that they don't believe in revelation. They don't believe in anything divine. They don't believe in any of that stuff, period. It's out of the question for them. So how they get around it? They have no way around it. So they simply, dishonestly, they just claim that Prophet Daniel's writings came after Alexander the Great. They have no... That's pathetic. That's their pathetic cover-up that they use to get around that. That's what they use. They have nothing else they can do because it's clearly saying what it's clearly saying. They're talking about things outside of biblical areas and biblical people. It's not talking about Jewish people. It's not talking about that. It's talking about Alexander the Great, his story, talking about someone in history outside of Bible history that it's not referenced in the Bible again. It's talking about them, and it's before their time, and it says exactly what happens to them, proving there is a God. God did reveal this. That prophet got revelation from God. So they have no way around it, no way out of it. So they just decide, well, we're going to say it happened in 65 BC or whatever instead. Even though that goes out of the chronological order of the Old Testament anyway. It's amazing to me. That's what they do. They have nothing. How pathetic is that? That's their only defense, is to lie to your face, is to lie. That really blew my mind. That absolutely blew my mind. It made my faith even stronger. And again, this is why when I do live videos, I hate it, because I'm always forgetting something important. Always happens to me. No matter what, I always forget something important, okay? Like, I just remembered something now. I was just talking about Sir William Ramsay in the 1900s. I just told you that whole thing. Yet, one other thing that was discovered, the Bethesda pools was found in the year 2014. The pools of Bethesda, that was written in John. See, all these places that the Bible describes, they are found eventually. They weren't found in Sir William Ramsay's time, okay, when he was out there and he was doing his research and traveling and actually traveling the world to try and disprove the New Testament, and he failed, thank goodness. But like Bethesda, pools of Bethesda, they were found in 2014. All these things are happening, okay? Look up the Expedition Bible, excellent source, and look up John Bergsma BERGSMA. Those two are great sources for archaeology confirming the Bible. Excellent stuff, amazing stuff. Okay, also look up archaeology confirms people in the Bible from outside sources. In other words, not a quote-unquote biased unquote source, such as a religious text, right? So like look up Josephus, for example, confirming Jesus Christ. All this stuff, amazing stuff. Okay, this stuff helped build my faith. So obviously I'm going to splice these two videos together so my testimony is actually full and actually complete, since I stupidly forgot things when I did my original live stream video. But anyway, going to combine these two into one. And glory to God, man. I want all of you to be saved. Find God. Find Jesus. Find a church, okay? Find the right church that's connected to the apostles, okay? Let's get salvation. Let's act better, okay? It's never too late. We've all made mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes. But let's be better, okay? So now I can finally actually say this time, now I have completed my testimony. Peace.